Hey, welcome to the podcast, Journeys of Deepening Trust. And I have with me today Ali. Welcome, Ali. Welcome back, Ali.
Thank you.
So we were just saying that last time we met and recorded was on the solstice. It's again the solstice, except it's the summer solstice here in Scotland and it's the winter solstice in Australia. And so we're talking about these bridges and the polarities that we're holding, and it's just the way it evolved. We didn't even try for this to happen. It's just the date that came up. So this feels very significant, very potent. And so I was just talking to Ali about how over these past 6 months, specifically for me anyhow, over the past 2 months, that there's been this real understanding of the essence of my path, and I know others are experiencing so of our paths, really getting to that core essence and everything else falling away and just carrying forward with what that essence is and what that looks like in the new terrain that we're moving into. So is there something you'd like to speak to within that, Ali, and share?
Yeah, it's like this stripping back. We just spoke about the last 7 years, and this it's not even a culmination, is it? It's like the culmination has occurred and it's the other side, and it's a real grounding, like just a grounding of the core themes and the core lessons or the visions. We've been through the lessons, the big healings and the cycles, karmic cycles, and like the last 7, 8 years has been insane. And we were just talking about, that journey and pinning it back to the essence of what we're now bringing through and anchoring in and moving forward with. When I think back 7 years ago, like I just mentioned, that's when I was given the vision for what I'm building now. And there's no way that I could have, like, I've had so many attempts at that. And it's been so many evolutions and try and build, but have to go through the healing and the stripping back and becoming someone new again. And I've built the same thing over and over, but as a different version of me and a different version of that. And it feels like now is a real solid grounding of everything, of the actual core truth of it, without all of the outside noise or without all of the things that were pulling and tugging, or the things that we thought it had to be, or the way that we thought it had to be, or without the fears or the insecurities or it's just this kind of, like I just spoke before, there's this, I feel like I'm just a sharpened arrow at the moment.
Yeah.
And there's nothing else. There's no destabilization. It's just, this is what I'm doing. And this is the core essence of what it is, who I am, what I'm here to do. And it's almost like uh, it's almost like a fixation. It's hard to come up with the language for that. It's like a fixation, but a drive,
Yeah.
like it's happening through you. And
Yeah.
there's nothing in the way. That's what it is. There's nothing in the way anymore. And I guess that is the essence of it. In
Yeah.
its essence, it's become so powerful and so potent because of the removal of everything else that was diluting it.
The
Yeah,
distractions don't work anymore, right?
no, no, game over, Govco. That's one of my favorite hashtags. I've been using that for 6 years.
Really is now. So I was
Yeah.
talking to you earlier as well about with what I'm doing with the Sacred Earth Essences, and that the one that's really coming to the fore at the moment is Rowan, which I co-created in 2019. So that's that 7-year cycle again. But she is so much for the now that really, like you're saying, grounded. She feels as if she comes deep from the belly of the earth, comes right up, and it's that movement of mother into warrior crone, a real deep embodiment of the feminine energy. And I know you have parallels to that with what's been happening for you. Would you like to share about those?
Yeah, she has come through me in ways that I guess when that came through me in 2025, in, that year when we all fell apart, like most of us, let's face it. If you're watching and you didn't fall apart in 2025, like, congratulations. I don't even know how you got through that year without something. Just it 2025 for me was I went through a separation. It was harrowing. Um, Most of us went through, you know, some really significant culmination of the previous lessons, but harder path, higher calling, right? She came through me in that chaos. There was something that I found deep down. You just mentioned down in the belly of the earth. There was something I found within me that came from deep down that I had never accessed. And it was this feminine rage and the warrior. It was the warrior. And I had never accessed my own essence to that depth. And that has been refined since then in the aftermath and the rebuilding of me and the restabilizing myself and my children and reinventing and just putting the pieces back together. I've now poured that into, not even poured, directed it. So it's like an arrow honed, poised. And it's like that energy, you can harness it and point it, direct it, and it is so potent. And there's just no stopping her.
Yeah.
Mm. And I've felt, I feel it, and I've seen with interactions with people who perhaps might have felt that they could have gotten away with maybe rattling me a little bit. I've noticed the difference there, and particularly masculine energies that, like, the reaction to that energy coming through, not so much in the physical expression of that, but just in the embodiment. I've noticed a difference in my interactions, and there's a reaction in energetically in the spiritual where it's almost like a healthy respect, stepping back. I wasn't expecting that from you. You're different. You feel different. I'm going to stay over here. So it's just really interesting to see, almost like parting the Red Sea. That's how I feel like it's like Queen of Wands. I'm on my chariot. Get out of my way. And I feel that coming through for the feminine as a collective. I feel that really coming through for the feminine in that bold energy and moving in a way that is unapologetic now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's beyond us. It's beyond us as individuals. I can feel that within myself, but it's just been so profound in my journey and just looking at how that has happened for me, particularly over the last 6 months, even in consciously working with that energy. And I feel that's when you speak of the essence that you're working with now, that's who I'm feeling.
Mm. As you were talking, I was reminded of a conversation that I was having um, about something else. It's actually about a motorbike, about this person who completely dismantles all of their motorbikes, strips everything back, every single little component. If there is one that's not working properly, they'll make their own to sort of refine it and make it better and clean it all, put it all back together and repaint it. And it feels, you know, there's that thoroughness of that detail. The tiniest speck of dust is just wiped out and everything's, you know, fresh oil. And so it's working, like you say, like an arrow at its absolute optimum. So you've evolved what you offer from Empress Rising into Ministry of Matriarch. So would you like to say something around that sort of dismantling of that project from one to another, but still keeping those core essential components?
Well, it's really interesting because Empress Rising is the not-for-profit association, the overarching, I guess, organization that, you know, is just me, the essence of me, came through me and was established as a private members association and, you know, projects under that. So I've had, I mean, I started before I actually set up Empress Rising. This vision came through. I had my counseling practice, rebirth counseling, be about 6 years ago. And I'd actually started doing community work and doing circle. And then I had a project called Sovereign Families and just trying to gather families in community and in light of, you know, the things that were coming in, the agendas that were at play. It was just a way to kind of gather people who are like-minded and find solutions in community, within community. And at the time, you know, a lot happened. I won't go into all of that. So it's like, you know, the path for me over the last 6 years through those varying projects, eventually to officially establish Empress Rising. And then I had, you know, a project called Empress Local, which was quite similar, but it's all been around community and gathering and creating resilient pockets within community and dealing with what we now know is upon us. And I feel that the second half of this year is really like we're crossing the threshold into that. And I feel that there's a real timing through all of the evolutions of all the projects that I've had. And, you know, it's like having to go through all of the healings and all of the shit that you have to deal with when you're trying to create something, build. So you're dealing with your internal, am I good enough, and insecurities and fears and, you know, people rattling you and, you know, boundary pushing and those kind of things, and learning how to stand in your truth and not be swayed. And, you know, through all of that, I've had, you know, themes like particularly around men having boundaries with men or softening too much. So there's been a really big theme for me around allowing masculine energy or being influenced by masculine energy. There's been a lot of themes around that for me, myself, within my healing, within, I guess, my own authority. And I think what I've really, really sharpened and am now standing in is that my own authority, in my own feminine authority, and really dropping that, you know, this is women's business. So Ministry of Matriarchy is now where I stand. And the vision for Empress Rising was really quite soft. For me, I thought I needed to be in partnership with a man to create that. This, you know, there was this, I guess, construct I had around that path and partnership and love and those kind of things. And I think now really the understanding for me and deconstructing those patriarchal constructs, moving through for myself around, you know, what it means to build or what it means to be successful, or even the way that I look at family life there's been a lot shifting around that. And so over the last 6 months, I've built something completely and utterly within my own energy, without, for the first time ever, without that tugging feeling of feeling like I need to soften or shift to include masculine energy, or to include men who may feel left out, or to soften because men might perceive me as oppositional, or perceive me as, like, there's all of that kind of stuff, the patriarchal bullshit. But it's been mostly around feeling okay to just stand in what I'm standing in and create it and build it with women at the center. And I feel that that journey over the last 6 months has been about really understanding the shift that we are now moving through, and deconstructing those patriarchal constructs, and really understanding how we have internalized that, particularly around relationships and family, and how we need to actually build that from the inside first, because matriarchy is a circle, right? It's a spiral. And what we've had is, like, when I picture the spiral, what we've had is we've had women at the center, but we have had the spiral running with the energy being sent outward. So the energy's been extracted from women outward, 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 outward. And so where we've been is this constant giving of feminine energy, women at the center, women holding everything, but the energy being extracted. And what I see now is, with what I've just built, just through the process of actually building it and seeing that in real time in what I've created, the construct I've created, it's actually a reverse of the spiral. The energy actually comes in to the circle. And that is the true symbiosis, and how we're supposed to live and operate, because that energy comes in from the outside. It's given to the feminine, women at the center, and women work with that energy, and the spiral continues. That energy generates, it goes back into community, and it comes back out. So yeah, for me, it's really been through my own experience, my own personal experiences, my own really deeply painful, traumatic experiences of relationship and separation, and my own trauma-based ways of relating and conditioning, and unpacking all of that, but that being poured into what I'm building now as wisdom. And I feel that the timing around this is really poignant, given where we're at collectively, and the conversations that are being had at the moment, and the need for communities to change the way that they do things. And I feel that that need is increasingly going to, like, that's going to become very obvious over the next, I'd say, probably 6 months. So yeah, interesting times.
Yeah. There's a few things that I want to bring up, having listened to you, but the first one I want to talk about is, it's backtracking a bit, and it's been implicit in a lot of what we've been talking about so far. And we've been talking about the feminine rising for a long time, right? But what's happening now is something deeper and more powerful and potent, and really strongly rooted and embodied. It's not just the feminine rising, as you're saying. I think that the softness, which I think was needed, but the power that comes with that. So I like the shift from, it's like becoming the empress and then moving into that matriarchy, or the movement into the warrior. And I'd really like to kind of differentiate that, because it feels like, as you're saying, it's something that's very new. It's a new experience for many of us. And it's not our masculine energy coming in and doing that. This is very much our feminine energy. And again, I just, for the sake of those watching, to define between gender roles and those masculine feminine principle and energetics as they move through us. But this is very much, it's almost like a decolonization of the understanding of the, not just of the genders, but of the different energies as well. So, yeah, would you like to say more around any of what I've just mentioned?
100%. Decolonization starts internally, and it absolutely starts with the feminine, because colonization started with the feminine. Why do you think they came for the witches first?
Yeah,
Witches.
I've got chills as you were saying that. Yeah,
On those lands that you're, and I'm holding that here down, I'm down under, and like here in Australia, we have like racism is, it's a ticking time bomb here. Um, there's a huge political issue, and the divide is just horrific. The hatred toward like Indigenous affairs and like just black and white is a really big issue here at the moment. And for me, one of the biggest understandings for me is actually really, I've been doing a lot of work with the grid and the song lines here, and really learning just how integral these lands here are to the collective, the global grid and awakening historically, with in the context of colonization, but further back, in even going back to Atlantis and Lemuria. Lemuria here is, that's a whole other yarn, but
yeah.
conversation for anyone who doesn't know what
I,
yarn means.
I was thinking about Lemuria and that connection before you mentioned it. I'm like, oh yeah. But like you
Yeah,
say, that's a whole other
absolutely.
story. So maybe we'll leave that for another time.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think for me, Empress Rising was born of that knowledge I'd attained around all of that, the wisdom and that journey for me, and understanding, what had happened to the feminine with original nations, and kind of like placing everything together, and also connecting that right back to Lemuria. So there's just so much around it, and it's all happening. And one thing I want to say, you mentioned the rise of the feminine, and then really rooting down into this embodiment, and we go up, but we also have to then ground. And that's the process that I'd moved through. And Empress Rising, I really moved through that Empress archetype and being, very soft and loving and shiny and light, and moved through that. And I met someone who really loved that energy, and I had to learn how to protect that energy and defend myself. And that's where I found that was the lesson for me. And that, for me, in my reflection around that, there's so much that links back to what happened with Lemuria. The
Yeah.
gates were not kept, because back then in those lands, in those times, the way that we lived, and I have memory of that, there was no need to protect or defend anything,
Mm.
and so when that all happened and Atlantis overreached, and then that was where colonization started. There was more conquest, more experimentation, more, we're kind of seeing now the resurgence. We saw that with the New World and Turtle Island, and the colonization, the doctrine of discovery. And when that all happened, it feels like we've come again to this point where this pattern has to really be pulled out at the root. And I feel that's where it comes back now to these lands here and reclaiming that, but also understanding that protection is a must,
Yes.
an absolute must. And I guess there's still a lot to play out around that. But when I look at my journey, I can absolutely see myself as a part of that greater story, as a part of something far bigger. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out, particularly for the women who are tuning into my work. And I'm showing up a lot online at the moment, and I'm seeing the feminine as a collective and so many women moving through what I've moved through. And I feel that that will really come to a culmination over the next 18 months.
It reminds me of a poem I wrote. I think it's called Gentleness, but there's a line in there and it says something, and I guess it refers back to biblical texts, but it says, in being the lion, know that you can be the dove. But you need to be able to know how to be the lion first to protect that. And then we can be soft and gentle, but we know we have that lion who will protect us as well. When that warrior crone energy who will.
That's a wholeness. That's I feel in finding that strength. And that's what I just get, like the strength card in the tarot, which is the lion. The angel is pulling the lion's jaws open, and there's strength in that, but very gently, like we can have power, because it's like, for me, I had the power to destroy someone's life, reputation. Yeah, I had the power to retaliate. I had the power to do many things. But for me, not just in in a few situations, particularly over the last 12 months. And it was about making a choice. I had the rage and the drive and the pain and the hurt and the grief and the power to, I guess, throw that around as I saw fit. But I also had a choice. So strength is an interesting thing, because if I'd thrown that away, like if I had thrown that power around, if I had used that power to, I guess, retaliate and maybe give myself an illusion of safety or justice, or because that's all it is, an illusion. Would I feel as strong as I do right now? Would I be as peaceful as I am right now? Would I have been able to still be in my softness? Like, it's like finding this balance between strength and softness. So, yeah.
There's a lot in what you've just said. And that's the true power, because we could run after that, like you say, but we're just getting ourselves caught up in that old paradigm, that old system, the old dynamics. And then there's a trust in letting go the distraction of something like that, knowing that that person's on their path. And we've been part of that path, that lesson for both of us, or whatever that might be. And somehow resolving that within ourselves and moving on our path. So much power in that.
Those people are not on any path anymore, and I had nothing to do with that. I had nothing to do with that. I'm on mine.
That's the trust, right? That's the
I
trust.
didn't need to do a damn thing. You know,
Yeah.
I would have destabilized. I would have strayed from my own path. I would
Yeah.
have derailed my own path, desecrated my own path had I gone into that energy of
Mm.
control.
Yeah, totally.
Mm.
Wow. And do you feel this is what the Ministry of Matriarchy supports women with going through those processes of really,
100%.
yeah.
100%. Yeah, and it's like really interesting because I had no idea where it was going, and it's been like through, well, it started as Ministry of Motherhood, which was just me basically just doing, you know, pay what you can. And I was counseling over the phone and doing readings and stuff. But it wasn't sustainable. I was giving too much. I just couldn't do one-on-one anymore. And I was doing tarot work. And I'm a single mother of three. I have no family here. I'm not in contact. I'm estranged from my family. I'm in this area that I'm not from, that I moved to. I've got a 2-year-old with the person that I separated from here. And so I didn't know anyone here. I moved here. Um, and that all went the way it did. And the path didn't move together as it was to move forward together. So yeah, it like for me, it was like, well, I have to go back to doing what I was doing. And, I'm after recovering from, yeah, it like I have a 2-year-old. So I've only just come through the postpartum. It takes 2 years to recover hormonally after birth. So, here I am, my son's 2, and I've been through all of this. And, when we separated, he was a year old. I've got 2 older kids, 9 and 6. So, you know, it's been a journey and just figuring out how am I going
Yeah.
to provide for myself and them. And, like I'm still chasing my tail at the moment, just trying to make ends meet and pay, like bills come in and I'm chasing my tail every week and month, just living week to week, but hoping that that's going to shift. And it's just been this slow build of like, how can I make this sustainable? Because I can't work the way I used to reading tarot, like I can't sustain that. So, I'm parenting around the clock. So I had to build differently, And so Ministry of Matriarchy now uh, I've opened up community funding. Uh, and I've actually anchored it. I've just anchored it here in my local area, and I'm running a micro matriarchy out of my garage because
Wonderful.
I got really angry one day. This born of anger, of course. It's one day I got really pissed off because there were a few things I needed for the kids and I couldn't afford it. And then I was looking around and I had these things that I had piled up that I'm like, I can't use any of that stuff. And another mum could use that. Like, I've got this stuff that I don't need and I need things and I can't afford it. Like, this is stupid. This is ridiculous. And so it was just, okay, well, I'm going to create a micro matriarchy because like we need this. And I kind of put it out there. And so now I have women gathering on a Thursday morning in my garage. I'm like, I'm going to build something here uh, where, you know, we're not just constantly trying to chase the things that we need or constantly having to try and, you know, get the support that we need. I wanted to anchor something where women come together and really form community. You're not just putting it out on a Facebook post to, people that you don't know. And so anyway, so that's how it started. So I'm like, okay, this is the vision. And I'd never envisioned it starting like that. Because for me, the bigger vision for Empress Rising originally was people deprogramming from the big changes coming in. I'll share this now. So when I was given the vision, I went into a quantum hypnosis with a beautiful healer. Her name is Christina Lavers, Lavers. If anyone is into beyond quantum hypnosis, I'm pretty sure she's still doing BQH. So I'll give her a plug here. She's an absolutely beautiful woman. She's on Gumbaynggirr land in Coffs Harbour, where I'm from. So I went to her and I did a big beyond quantum hypnosis session because I was I had this pulling, this calling, and my focus for that session, my great dilemma at the time, my older kids were so much younger, it was 6 years ago, and I had these things coming through and pulling, calling, and, how am I going to do this? What I really couldn't work out was I was trying to build my counseling practice and stepping into this work and starting to do tarot work. But I also had very small children, and I just could not see how I was going to do all of this and be mother and leader and wise woman. I couldn't see how my path, my spiritual path, and my role as a mother could fit together. And so I went into this hypnosis and, how is this going to work? How am I going to do this? I was taken right out off the earth and I went off planet, and then I came back down. But when I came back down, the planet looked completely different. It was Earth, but it was just so different. It was reset. The water was out because I came down into the water, and the water was so clear and so clean. Like it was absolutely incredible. And I came down into the water, and then I eventually ended up on land. And I went on this big journey, and I was kind of wandering around, and I came upon these different groups of different beings and people, and kind of trying to figure out where I fit. And I never really fitted anywhere. I wandered up to, there was this group, and there was some beings overseeing this line. It was like a production line of people, and they were passing something between them, like down a line, passing something down a line and feeding it into a tree, like a tree stump into the earth. They were passing energy down a line and feeding it down into the earth. They were healing. So there had been something that had happened to the earth, and there was all of these crews everywhere, and they were, doing healing work. So I sort of were with them for a while. I'm like, I don't really fit here. And I wandered, and then I wandered to this group, and there were these kind of nymph, like, the feminine kind of spirits, like wood spirit, and they were kind of footloose and fancy free. And then some of them were like laying around and they're like just eating fruit. And I'm like, yeah, this is not me. Like, I can't just lay around eating fruit all day. Like, this is great. It's been good. Like, I've been happy to wander around with you, but off I go, like these different groups. And I'm just like, this is not me. Because I knew I was being called somewhere. And anyway, I eventually arrived at these gates, and oh, this is interesting. And I went in to this property, and it was very quiet. And I walked up to the house, and I knew there was someone in there. And so I went inside, and I went up the stairs, and at the top of the stairs there was a room, and there was a being, a blue being, kind of cat-like features. I think you probably know who I'm talking about. Um, and he said to me, it was like he was expecting me. And he just looked at me. He was at this desk and he just looked up at me and he said, "This is yours." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "This is your place." And I'm like, "No, it's not." And he said, "Yeah, we need your help." He said, "Go and have a look outside." And so I did. I went down and there was this big fence, and there was a big forest alongside this property. And in the forest, there were these people, like I kind of looked, and there were these people sort of like wandering at the edge of this forest, and they were naked, and like dazed and confused. And this being said to me, he said, "They're the dumbfounded dipshits." Now, the reference for that, the reference for that is actually that comes from a Tool song, a song by Tool. It's called Anima, Aenema is the album and the song, and it's actually about a tidal wave coming, the changes in the earth and earthquakes and tidal waves, and Los Angeles being wiped out by a flood, and just like the lyrics basically. Some of the lyrics are, "Mum's going to fix it all soon. Mum's coming down to put it back the way it ought to be." So just to give you an idea. So, and in the song, some of the lyrics are followed by fault lines that cannot sit still, followed by millions, followed by something in tidal waves. He's talking about tidal waves, things like that. But the final one was followed by millions of dumbfounded dipshits. And some say the end is near. Some say we'll see Armageddon soon. Certainly hope we will. I sure could use a vacation from this stupid shit. So anyway, this is getting long, but just to give you an understanding of that context for the dumbfounded dipshits. So that's what he said to me. He said, "They're the dumbfounded dipshits." These people, he said, they can't feel anything. He said, "You need to teach them how to feel and show them how to create. They're afraid of us because they can't feel us, and so they won't come. So you need to help us." And so I'm like, I don't know how, and these people are just wandering around like they don't know what the hell has happened. And the whole vibe I get, like they're naked, so they don't have anything. They're just in the forest. Everything's been taken from them. They don't know how to function. They don't know how to survive. They've been completely stripped. And that's, metaphorical, right?
Yeah.
My understanding of that. And I think most people watching can really kind of tune into what we know is coming. People are going to be completely stripped back and they're going to have to learn how to live in a new way. And so I'm like, I don't know how to get these people on the property. And then I turned around and my older boys, I only had those two at the time, they were only little. They're actually about this age. I turned around and they were there. And I'm like, "Oh, you guys are big." Like, how did you grow up? And then the children of the people in the forest started coming onto the property and they're playing with my children. And, and then, of course, because their children are coming, they started coming. And so as the people started coming onto the property, I started just giving them energetic first aid. And it started as just like grounding people. And it kind of eventually just turned into a healing center and more people came in, and it turned into a rehabilitation space. And we were teaching people how to live a new way, how to be in connection, how to be in connection with the earth, and how to be in relationship. And so it just kind of evolved that way. And so now with what I've just built with Ministry of Matriarchy, the micro matriarchy, and the online village. I've just created an online village as well with the vision of connecting micro matriarchies on the ground. It's the women and children connecting in that way.
Yeah.
Being
And
in relationship.
children are amazing at that, at
They're
just
great
being able to
connectors.
connect. I was traveling India when my son was 5, traveling with him. And there are a few instances, but one was a place I was staying where there was a young Indian lad, the same age as him. They didn't speak the same language, and yet they got on so well. They played together, they were laughing together, and it didn't matter. Those apparent barriers, they just transcend them.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I also want to kind of go back a little way because, what you're talking about is so important. And I'm sorry, I've got to bring this in with the micro matriarchy being in your garage. And then I'm thinking of these men's shed structures that were started in Australia. And yet obviously it's going to be something that's very different. But also this idea of what you were talking about earlier, the slavery, the extraction of energy from women. And then as women, that recognition that we need sustainable resourcing, and even amongst ourselves, right? Even with other women. And to really be able to hold our boundaries around that. And in some situations, at least, to demand that return. And one of the things I've been learning a lot about over the past year is to see all resources as equal, not to see financial resources, even though in the world we live in, they're important, but there are many other resources we can have that can take a lot of financial pressure off of us. And that community collaboration that can support that, with you, it's a community of mothers. So I'm assuming that you'll be sharing resources within these micro matriarchies. Would you like to say a little bit more about how you envision it and how it's unfolding?
Absolutely, because we have women, and I've met so many women in my walk. I've met so many women of all different walks, all different seasons, all different. I've met older women who have land and are looking to do something with that land. I've met older women who have time. I've met a lot of women who are now estranged from children and grandchildren. I've met a lot of women like me who are estranged from family. I've met a lot of single mothers. I've met a lot of women who've been through a lot of trauma, a lot of women who are homeless or facing homelessness, very under-resourced, under-supported. But we're all separate.
Mm.
That's where I'm going. And I've also met a lot of men who have said, I don't know how to help. What can I do? I've met a lot of men who are looking for meaning and looking for purpose and are looking to women to lead and don't know how to support that.
Mm.
And I have created a way for that to occur.
Amazing. Amazing.
Women at the center, children protected, men providing, not extracting. Communities resilient. That's my vision.
Yeah. And I think as women, as well as women who identify with that feminine energy principle moving through us, we also have a role in supporting men in understanding that, as well as finding their own understanding of what their masculine energy principle is that moves through them. And that it's almost again that understanding of what provision is.
Mm-hmm.
I remember hearing one man talking once, and it really touched me really deeply, because he talked about when he supported his wife with her healing, how that was an honor for him, because he was then taking accountability not just for himself but for other men who were part of the trauma. And I think that's part of that provision, is also part of that taking accountability not just for ourselves but for our lineages, whatever those lineages may be as well. And this is part of the decolonisation again, isn't it?
Yes, 100%. That provision takes the weight off the feminine as a collective. And for most of us who are in deep healing and doing a lot of, like, women like us, we carry so much of the collective weight. Healers carry a disproportionate amount of that weight energetically. It's heavy. So for men to also take some of that weight, it energetically has such a huge impact. And it is such an important part of provision that most men just don't comprehend, because most men think physical provision, providing, protecting, make her safe physically, give her money. And that's that construct, right? It's put her in the home where she's safe in the four walls, and make sure that she's got all the physical things and food on the table, blah, 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 and all of those things. But then the feminine is caged.
And put in separation.
Mm-hmm. In separation. Yeah, I
Not,
don't want to say caged, because I don't want to alienate women who, like, there are women who are happy in that space, in that role. And like,
yeah.
that's not, but yes, separated from community, and a lot of the time overburdened with the day-to-day running of the household and family and all the things.
And it, to me, it also demonstrates how, in a very actual way, how the feminine and masculine are kept separated. Because instead of doing that work together,
Mm-hmm.
the man has to leave the home, so leave his feminine behind to
Yeah,
go
yeah.
out and do the work to provide and
Mm-hmm.
protect. And so it's done in separation. So there's a real like chasm there that
Yeah,
needs
make
to
it
be
make sense.
crossed. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, like, for me, I've said no to that,
Yeah.
twice. I have 3 children. Uh, there's 2 fathers. I've been through 2 separations because those men did not want to build in the way that I'm built. They just wanted to go to work and be outside the home. And I'm like, I can't build what I'm building. There's no room for me in this, because you're outside the home. This is the first time I've been able to speak about this openly, because you're outside the home doing your thing, and I'm over here holding the home and everything together and running things, and across all of the mental and emotional, and like, there's no space for me to build anything, to create anything. There's no space, there's no room for me to be who I am. And that in itself, that patriarchal, that's the nuclear family. And it's not how we're built. We're not built for that. We are just not built for this. It's not the natural order at all. And thousands and thousands, if not millions, of women can attest to that, because women are leaving at unprecedented rates and thriving.
Yes. It's the
Hear them say
thriving,
it.
it's the thriving that we want, not the
Yeah,
surviving, it's the thriving. And that I
yeah.
feel is also our birthright. And I mean, I I don't mean that in a trivial sense. I mean women and men. We all deserve to be thriving.
Yeah. This world is built on extraction. Not only it's not only women. A man leaves the home, goes and clocks in and does his 8, 10 hours, whatever, comes home exhausted, doesn't have much room or space, goes and plays golf on the weekend. Like that whole, the American dream, right? The nuclear family. He's leaving the home and spending most of his time outside of the home. He gives 30% of that to criminal billionaires. He doesn't have any mental capacity left, any emotional capacity, any creativity. On the weekends, he just wants his downtime and his space and his time. And who's providing for that? Like, for that to occur, when you have children anyway, for that to occur, a woman has to sacrifice her creativity, dreams, desires to run the workplace. So much of a woman's life goes into that role of caretaking and, being the mother if you're staying at home, for a man to go. Like, for 30% of his paycheck to go to criminal billionaires, because that's where it goes, really. It's such extraction. And how many men are really happy in that? How many men are really happy in it? And now women have to do it too. And now both are working and kids are in, like, there's this whole thing where you're like, well, we have to put our kids in childcare so we can both work. And then no one sees the kids and we're all so busy and rushed. And even then, women are still doing a disproportionate amount of the domestic labor and managing the children, even when they are working, because that's the way. That's the natural order,
And I feel that has come from, that the feminine movement. It's difficult to really pinpoint. I mean, it's been going on for hundreds of years, but I feel that wanting it all wasn't really about the feminism. It was more about women moving into their distorted masculine energy.
Yeah,
And
100%.
and now that then of course there's this kind of trying to bring that into balance of understanding what our feminine energy is, and we're in this really difficult situation in this kind of inverted matrix, and where that's mirrored to us by very few other societies other than perhaps some of the indigenous who still are able to live that way or still have memory of living that way. And yet we're doing it, right? We are restoring that. That's very much what you're doing.
Yeah, cultural restoration.
Yes.
It's a cultural restoration. We look at Western culture, everybody's complaining about it. The left's complaining about the right's complaining about the left. And really, all it is a representation of distorted masculinity and distorted femininity. And they're facing off with each other, and that's Western culture. And they're all pointing the finger at each other. And we're all over here going, the
What the
whole
fuck?
culture needs, like, what happened? How did we get to this? Because
Yeah.
I remember as a white woman, I remember what it was like to be connected to the earth. I remember. And that's what we need to reclaim. Not
It
take it. And this is I've spoken about, like, here. I don't know what it's like in other places, but I know particularly here in Australia, there's like the New Age movement and a lot of spiritual groups. They look to Indigenous groups. Like there's a lot of nations here, original nations here. Like there's 369 plus, like more than that. And they all have their own, laws, cultures, customs, right? So they're all individual nations. And a lot of white people, they go through spiritual awakening and they want to, like you go through an awakening and they're looking to, like they're looking to black fellas, right? I'm just using the language here. White fellas will go look into black fellas for the answers. And it's like, oh, there's a lot of new ages running around and sitting with the elders and and I'm like, you can't take someone else's culture. We have to do something about our own culture and bring it into alignment with that so that we can find a way to take something new forward together. And that's the work of decolonization right there.
I was
And
just
I say
about
to
to
people
say
all the
that.
time, yeah, they're like, oh,
We keep
decolonization. I'm
coming
like,
back round.
yeah, we do. We keep coming back to that. It's like decolonization is not sitting with Indigenous people and learning their ways. That is not decolonization. Decolonization is learning the ways in which we learned to disconnect. It's actually
Yeah.
learning how to connect back to our ancestry and our culture, the parts of our culture that could coexist peacefully, that
Mm.
are not broken.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Mm.
I do feel that the Indigenous people have things to teach us because our colonization here happened so long ago. It has been so very, very broken. There's so little memory of it. It exists in some of the languages like Gaelic, which has been experiencing a revival since I've been living here. And a lot of that is still being translated. So it really helps to see that. But it's like you say, it's not about cultural appropriation. It is around, it's like bringing that into the context of our own culture
Mhm.
and something that is new, and also our own memories. You spoke about earlier about having those memories of what it was like before, and many of us are having more of those remembrances, um, and really trusting that as well.
Oh, I say to people all the time, like if you sit in the bush for an entire day without any, you go, but like I miss this so much because I used to have every second weekend, my older kids would go to their dad and I would have time to and I would just barefoot wander, right? Or I'd go for a weekend and just take myself bush. And so that was when I was right into my spiritual work and doing healings and readings. I can't do that work now without that kind of proper grounding and regulation. But I say to people all the time, you go and sit with yourself, sit with the earth. The earth will show you. You'll connect to the grid, right?
Mm.
You can go and sit with Indigenous people and learn a lot, but leave these elders alone. They are exhausted and they're sick of having to
That's
teach
true.
you people shit. Like some of the uncles I've met, I haven't met many of the women, but some of the uncles I've they're just over it. Like a friend of mine is an elder and a language teacher, and he's such a beautiful man. He's an Indigenous elder. He said, "Oh, he said just white people are fucked, Aboriginal people are fucked." He said, "I love sitting with you." Like it's just there's this exhaustion, you know, where he and I just sit and we can just sit with the land and just be, you know.
Mm.
People have forgotten that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And they're starting to remember. I feel, Earth herself as mother, right? As matriarch, and as this shift in the feminine, that is going to be coming to the fore, of having that direct experience, the direct teachings.
Yes.
More and more are going to be receiving those.
Yes.
Yeah,
And we need that.
we do.
I remember last time we spoke, I told you about the experience I had back at that time, you know, when before I went for the hypnosis. So when that all kicked off, and I sat with the earth, and she showed me. It was the very beginning of me being given that vision. You know, she showed me and she said, "It's coming." Like, she showed me the pain. She felt like I felt it. And I knew when I sat and she showed me the absolute desecration. And you know, she said to me without speaking it, but you get this, like, the feeling I got was she had shown me that because she knew that I understood as a woman and as a mother in what I was experiencing at the time after my second baby and what I was going through. There was a lot going on. And I'm a survivor of childhood sexual trauma. So all of that was tied in with that, right? That was all coming up to the surface. She showed me, and I knew at that time that that was the path and that I was in service to her. And I know that every woman I cross paths with that aligns with the work that I do, that comes in, that resonates with the reading I bring through, I know those women are the same. And there are so many women being initiated into that now. So many.
Yes.
She's waking up.
Yeah, which is beautiful. So how
Yeah.
do you see, I mean, this is such a pivotal time, right? And I think we're going to understand that more and more over time. How do you see, you've got these micro matriarchies, you've got the Ministry of Matriarchy. How do you see all of that unfolding
I
in
have
the future or the
absolutely
future?
no idea, right? I have no idea. And
As
that's been really hard for me. It's just, it has just been a process of just letting it come through me when it comes through me. And then there's a pause and then it changes or it shifts and it just goes where it goes. And it's been so hard for me to just let go of it and go, it will. So, yeah, right now it's building the online village, uh, and really just connecting women and starting to have these conversations and getting women speaking about this because voices are really important right now,
yeah.
and
So
sharing experience.
yeah. So it's like the future vision is no vision, because it's almost, there's so much potential, unlimited potential. And it's almost like if we kind of get too fixated on a vision, that could distort. And we don't want to go back into distortion. It could distort so much potential and possibility.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I love you saying that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have held on to that before in the past with Empress Rising. It's been like, oh, that's the vision and that's what it's a very different energy for me now. It will go where it goes. And I think I've been held in I guess spiritual jail a fair bit.
I don't think it's
Not
jail.
not jail, but it's like that's what I call it. I'm like, oh, spirits
Yeah.
put me in spiritual jail because you go into these periods of isolation where nothing moves and it's like your energy has to be
Mm.
refined and all of that's the realignment. So I call that jail because I'm an Aries. It's like I don't like that where you don't have any free will and it's just like I don't like that. So we're done with that spirit. But anyway, now to I've learned patience. I've learned to be a bit more, I guess, balanced in my energy, more earth rather
Yeah.
than, I have a lot of fire, but I've really, really learned how to ground in. Um, it's more of that energy of rooting down
Yeah.
while still letting the fire move.
Yeah. I feel for me, it's more about having a commitment than a vision, a
Yes,
commitment to what's, I guess, the project here, rather than an if but and only, or but the project. And then it's each morning, it's like, okay, it's almost like I get my instructions, but one of those instructions might go off on a detour, which is actually what I'm supposed to be doing rather than what I thought I might be doing.
yes. Yeah,
And
it's spirit led.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And it's beautiful.
It happens through you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like coming back to the start of the conversation where it's all of the distraction and everything's been moved out of the way, where
Mm,
it just this vessel now.
yeah.
And there's not the when the energy comes through, it's not hitting those blocks of, shit that we've accumulated or trauma. It's kind of, oh, there's something to clear and it clears and it just we are, I feel for me, more consistent and stable and really grounded. Still move through the clearings and the purges, but they're not, it is consistent action every day, but not rigid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Um,
It's building from the feminine in a really embodied way, not the old,
yeah.
yeah, masculine.
Which is creational, right? Creational
Mm,
power. It's been
yeah.
wonderful talking to you, Ali, across these
So rich,
polarities. And
so rich.
there's
It's
another
amazing.
polarity that popped up there as well. And you mentioned you're an Aries because I'm a Libra, and I'm like thinking, oh.
I'm a Libra moon. We did talk about this last time because I'm an Aries. I'm an Aries sun, Libra moon, Aries rising. Oh my
I've
God.
only got Saturn in Aries.
So, yeah.
So
So yeah, we did talk about that last time because we were talking about, I think, that eclipse. That there was 2023 to 2025, that 2 year period, and it was the Aries Libra axis, the eclipse axis.
mm,
And yes, so yeah, it is Aries and Libra on the solstice, the polarities, and the like. This is just,
yeah,
yeah, there's so much more than just the conversation here.
yeah.
Mm,
So most people, in fact, anybody who'll be watching this, it will be after the solstice, but it is actually the 20th today, and 20th of June, 2026. And I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I hope we will have more like this with
I
this
feel we will. I feel we will.
evolution. Um,
Yes.
I'll be curious to know what dates we end up meeting next time. Um,
Yeah.
I'll just see what unfolds. But thank you so much, Ali, for coming on and joining me in this kind of new thread to the podcast. And is there anything you'd like to add before we fully say goodbye?
No, thank you for having me. This has been just the best conversation.
Okay,
Really,
I go.
really have.
I'll put links to Ministry of Matriarchy and anything else that you've mentioned below. Um, so if anybody would like to join Ali's community, whether that's in person or the online village, that
Yes,
information will be
please.
there.
Yeah, everything's at the
Okay.
link, and I'd love your support. Women join the village. If you're a man watching, you can support. You'll see it all in the links.
And also maybe in the, if people are interested in their own versions of micro matriarchy, maybe they can get in touch as well if they don't live in your
Absolutely.
locality. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the online village is for that purpose, but I'm absolutely open to collaboration with anybody. My details are all at the link. So, yeah,
fantastic.
that's the vision.
Okay, thank you again. And sending everyone who's been watching and listening much love for the unfoldment and magic of these next 6 months. And looking
Yes.
forward
And
to
yeah.
seeing you all soon. Okay, take care.